Hello teachers, this is David coming at you with another video update for all the stuff that we're doing for distance learning. This is a big one. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of little things, and some changes, some tweaks to some of our expectations. Bear with me, and hopefully it's worth it. To begin with, I want to just remind you that everything that we have is being tracked on the PowerSchool site that we built for you for the resources. But if you ever, for some reason, can't remember how to get back there, go into SIS, go to resources, go to distance learning, and then you see this distance learning resources for teachers, and that will take you to the PowerSchool site that we've set up, which has all the resources. So I want to start with some of the tweaks that we're making to the expectations for teachers. Hopefully by this time you've already read the email from Nigel and Monica. We are trying to bear in mind how hard you are working and also be responsive to some of the things that students and families have asked us. And so there's two areas where we're looking for more consistency, and I've added them to the expectations document here. And you can double check on Nigel's email. But the first thing is that when homework assignments are due, homework assignments can be due at one of two times. They're either going to be due at 5 p.m. on the day that they're due, or they're going to be due at the start of the next video conference. But don't set any other due time for assignments. The second thing that is going to really help families in terms of consistency and communication is just us communicating about the video conferencing schedule and making it a little bit easier for kids to keep track of. I think part of this is just we're new and kids will get used to the rhythm, but what we'd like you to do is post on your class page on the bulletin board right at the front there. And if you don't know how to use bulletin board, please ask me or any member of the tech team, but post right there the schedule of your video conferences. You could just put the two color days and periods, or you could actually put the dates and times and things like that with the color days and periods. The second thing we're asking you to do in terms of your video conferences is we're asking you to create the Google Calendar event and post an SIS assignment with a link to the Google Calendar event no later than 4 p.m. the day before the video conference. Kids are just so used to going to SIS that having the assignment there will be helpful, but we're also trying to encourage kids to start using Google Calendar more regularly. So if the event is there when they're making their plans, that will be helpful. I wanted to mention some ways that you might make that part easier for you. So if you're in Google Calendar, if you open up an event and click on the three dots and click duplicate, it'll make a duplicate of the event, and then you can just change the date and the time. But what's also nice is that if you duplicate it, this link, that TJVCQIMTY, actually stays the same for every single duplicate of this event. So if you're going to duplicate your Indigo 4s or your Violet 3s or whatever, you can actually just save that link. And then what you might do, because you can do this in SIS as well, is that you could duplicate the assignment in SIS and not have to enter them all in over and over again from scratch. And so just quickly, like if I'm in SIS, so this is beautiful. She's got her class video conference schedule already posted. But in addition, if I look at her assignments and I want to add an assignment, I can add if I go to add existing, and I can actually just select this video conference and add it again and add it again and add it again, and the link stays the same. So all I really have to do is change the date, and I can add all of my yellow day assignment video conferences all in one fell swoop. So that should save you some time. Also, if you're an advisor and you're trying to help your advisees, through this, which is part of what we've been seeing, is, keep in mind that we've got a link from your course to the student course. It's also on that SIS resources. But if you look in the students course, which if you haven't looked at, you should familiarize yourself with, under 4.1 for them, we've got suggestions about how to build their own daily schedule, and we include things with Google Calendar, which we want them to do, checking every day. And we've also posted for them the video conference master schedule, so keep that in mind. We posted it for you all, the video conference master schedule, in case you're interested in the 12.0 section. It's here now, and so you have that too. Next is we noticed that a number of students were having trouble submitting PDFs or Drive files in general. We have created a workaround. Here's some tips you might give to your students, but again, there is instructions for them on how to solve that problem on their site. If you notice a student having problems, please encourage them to open a tech support ticket, but you could also open a tech support ticket for them. If you open the ticket and then just put their name or CC them on it, then it'll go to them as well, and that helps us a lot. Some teachers have been mentioning that the email overload is quite voluminous right now. So one thing just for you all to think about is judicious use of reply alls and group emails. Obviously, your default should always be reply sender. Think of judicious use of email to students as well. Especially if you're going to do this thing where you duplicate your events, consider not sending them the invitation, certainly when you're duplicating it, but also talk to your kids. Maybe they don't want the invitation at all because they get used to looking at Google Calendar and they have a schedule. So maybe you don't inundate them with invitations. But also, you can turn off a lot of the Google notifications that you're getting. So we've created, if you go to 8.1.2, there's a bit on Google Calendar, how to import your SIS classes, if you haven't already, but also how to reduce the volume of notifications. And that'll open up a tech support page, which has instructions on managing those email notifications so you can get a lot fewer email notifications. Oh, by the way, I also put in the instructions about duplicating an event right here on this page. I'd forgotten that I did that. So we received a little, some feedback about student behavior during video conferences, and so with Vanessa and Susan, they've crafted a list of sort of expanded list of expectations for student behavior. You can click on that here. This is what it will bring you to. You can review it and make sure that you're holding them accountable in appropriate ways. Just like classroom management issues in school, if you're not comfortable with it or not handling it or it's consistent, talk to the grade dean, talk to Vanessa, Susan, to get it taken care of. One quick tip that a lot of people have found useful is this right here. This keyboard shortcut for muting your microphone and unmuting your microphone can be really fast if you're on a laptop or a desktop, especially in big meetings, maybe more with adults than with students, but even with students. If you do find yourself with a kid that for some reason you have to kick out of a Google Meet, here are instructions to do that. I would also encourage you all to check the chat transcript in the Google Meet before you close it. So after all the students have left, hopefully, you open up that chat window and just scroll through real quick and scan through and make sure that kids haven't posted anything that they shouldn't have. Most people have already had good success using the Google Meet grid view extension. A couple people have said that it's just like sort of stalled out. We don't know why that is, but it is an extension. Extensions do that. So maybe you come in, come out, and restart or reinstall. But if you haven't installed it, this is instructions on how to do that. Similarly, we've added some tips on what to do if your video conferencing is just slow. It's under the troubleshooting, 8.1.5. So there's some ideas in here. I mean, and we've given this to students as well. I would say the last thing a student should try and do if their video conferencing is slow is just turn off their video, because then you don't know where they went and what they're doing. But there's a bunch of other things they can try to make it go a little bit faster. And even if they do turn off their video, I think I heard that one of the things that Alan was doing was simply calling on kids and saying, "Hey, give me your opinion." So it's an old trick, I guess, but you can still do it. Blackbaud has added some new features to SIS that you may find useful if you are giving assessments on SIS. They've basically made with both a manual save and an auto save, made it harder for kids to lose their work. But I think what's more interesting is this thing where you can set a different time for each student on the assessment. So let's say in theory it's a 20-minute assessment and a kid has extra time, you can actually set individually by the student, give them 40 minutes to do it instead of 20. Also, if you want to do, I think this is for foreign languages or science and math, if you want to do like special characters, equations, notational things in your multiple choice answers, they've added more flexibility in the formatting of the answers. So you could use that. This isn't on in our pages anywhere, but I know that a lot of folks are probably going to be making more videos than they have in the past, and we strongly encourage you to do that, and maybe you're even recording parts of Google Meets to share with students or something like that. But when you do that, your hard drive will fill up. So if you upload those videos to Google Drive somewhere, then you can delete them off of your local hard drive on your computer and save the space on your computer so it's not filling up. You don't want to have a hard drive full of videos. There's some new stuff out there for Flipgrid. Flipgrid has added a screencasting feature, and there's some information about that here. Also, there's a new article, 9 ways to use Flipgrid, which, if you're still thinking, how might I use Flipgrid? That might be useful for you. I know what I was going to say. Something else with SIS. We added, there's this kind of a neat trick. So if you're posting kind of a weekly plan, either on Topics or in Google Drive, and you're kind of referencing assignments, but then the kid has to kind of click away from your Topics page or away from your Google Drive file to get to the assignment, you can actually just grab the link off of the assignment. So if this is my assignment, I can actually just get it and then grab the link URL at the top, cut and paste. I don't have my screen set the right way, but I can grab that link and actually just make a link from my Topics page or from my Google Drive page directly to the assignment. So if somebody's in there working, they can just be working through, reading what you're talking about, and then you create a link. That's what this little picture here is. And then it would open up the SIS assignment directly, and then they could submit. And that technically can also work with SIS discussions and assessments, but it's quite a bit more tricky. So if you're interested in that, we can walk you through it if necessary. The last thing I want to say is that SIS has some new features that you can ignore. So if you're in here, you see Assignment Center and Assignment Center EAP. Ignore the Assignment Center EAP. Also, I think in your classes, you'll see this tab for Mastery Overview. Blackbaud has added features to be able to do mastery learning and competency-based skills tracking. We're not using it yet, so you can ignore it. So I know that was a lot of stuff. I tried not to go too fast. If you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, and you go to the description and you click more, you can click on any of those times and skip around in the video to whichever part is of interest to you. So if you didn't know you could do that, that's a useful thing to be able to do. Whew. All right. See you around.